What if a glowing church appeared only at midnight in your town, and you couldn't resist walking inside? The question had been floating around Brackett, Texas, for as long as anyone could remember. Some called it a myth, others swore their cousin's friend's uncle had seen it once, but no one could ever prove it. No one ever had photos. No one ever had evidence. Just stories whispered at bonfires, retold in hallways, always in hushed voices. But on that particular Friday night, four teenagers decided they weren't going to let it stay just a story. The moon was full, swollen, spilling silver across the pine trees that lined the edge of town. Miles of woods stretched beyond the high school's football field, a place the town kids called the Back 40. That's where the church was supposed to appear. Ethan Parker was the ringleader. At 17, he had the cocky grin and restless energy of a boy who hated being told no. He leaned against his dusty Ford pickup, tossing an empty soda can in the air as if daring gravity itself to drop it. "Midnight," he said, glancing at his watch. "We've got 15 minutes. If we're gonna do this, we gotta move." Beside him, Kayla Henson adjusted the straps of her hoodie and rolled her eyes. She'd gone along because she had a crush on Ethan, though she'd never admit it. Her brown eyes were sharp and skeptical, but her hands betrayed her nervous habit of picking at her sleeves. "Assuming it even shows up," she muttered. "Y'all do realize we might just be wasting a Friday night wandering the woods like idiots, right?" Derek Cole, the linebacker of their group and Ethan's best friend, let out a laugh that echoed across the empty field. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and about as subtle as a bulldozer. "Even better. Gives me a chance to scare the hell out of you, Kayla." He reached forward to tap her shoulder, making her flinch. "Cut it out," she snapped. "Relax," Derek grinned. "Ghost stories are only fun if someone screams." The fourth member of their crew, Lila Ramirez, didn't laugh. She sat on the tailgate of the truck, hugging her knees, dark hair falling in her face. Unlike the others, Lila didn't like breaking rules. She was the quiet one, the type who always seemed to see things others didn't. Tonight, her voice was almost a whisper. "My abuela told me about the church when I was little," she said. "She said it wasn't meant for us. That it wasn't built by people. She said, if you hear the bell, it's already too late." Ethan smirked. "Sounds like your grandma just wanted to keep you out of trouble." But Lila didn't smile. "Or keep me alive." The walk through the woods felt longer than it should have. The trees seemed denser, the shadows thicker. Even Derek stopped joking after a while. Their flashlights cut thin cones of pale light through the darkness, illuminating roots, branches, and the occasional startled rabbit. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. No crickets. No owls. Just the sound of their sneakers crunching over leaves. Ethan tried to keep the mood light. "So, who's gonna be the first one through the door? Any volunteers?" "No one's walking through anything," Kayla muttered. "Because there's not gonna be a door." But Lila had stopped walking. Her breath caught in her throat. "Do you smell that?" she whispered. The others paused. At first, there was nothing. Then, faint, almost hidden in the breeze, came the unmistakable scent of burning candles. Sweet, smoky, with a trace of melted wax. Ethan's grin widened. Well, damn. Maybe Grandma was right after all. They stepped into a clearing at 11:59. And that's when they saw it. At first, it was nothing but empty space. The moonlight painted the clearing silver, the grass swaying gently. But then, like a photograph developing, shapes began to rise from the darkness. A steeple, impossibly tall, spearing the night sky. Walls shimmering into place, wood glowing faintly as though lit from within. The church wasn't built. It was becoming. Within seconds, it stood fully formed before them, a white wooden church, tall and narrow, with arched windows glowing amber like stained glass lit by candlelight. Its doors were wide, black iron handles catching the moon. The glow around it pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat. Kayla's mouth dropped open. Holy sh! The sound of a bell cut her off. It tolled once. Deep, resonant. The sound rolled through the clearing like a wave, vibrating in their chests. Lila grabbed Ethan's arm. We shouldn't be here. But Ethan pulled free, eyes locked on the glowing doors. Are you kidding? This is it. This is the legend. We're the first ones to see it. We can't just walk away. Kayla hesitated, torn between awe and dread. Derek, grinning ear to ear, was already stepping closer. Looks pretty solid to me, he said, tapping one of the wooden steps with his boot. Guess I'm going first. Lila shook her head violently. Don't. You don't understand. My abuela said once you go in. Another bell tolled. Midnight. The doors creaked open. The smell of candle wax thickened, mingling now with something faintly metallic, like rust, or blood. The interior glowed with warm light, but from where they stood, the pews seemed to stretch farther than possible, rows upon rows disappearing into shadow. No one was inside. And yet, they all heard it. A low hum, like a choir singing far away. Voices weaving together in a language none of them knew. The sound drifted down the aisle and out the open doors, wrapping around them like smoke. Derek's grin faltered. That doesn't sound like a recording. Kayla whispered, we should leave. Ethan stepped forward. Or we could make history. He placed his hand on the doorframe. The wood was warm, almost pulsing beneath his skin. Come on, he said, looking back at them. What's the worst that could happen? One by one, they followed him. Derek close behind, Kayla with trembling steps, Lila last, whispering a prayer in Spanish under her breath. The moment they all crossed the threshold, the doors slammed shut with a thunderous gunshot. Every flashlight tore through the darkness, sharp and in the pitch-black silence, she clamped her hands over her mouth, swelled, echoing all around them. The church swallowed the sound as if it had never happened. Flashlights, Ethan hissed. Turn them back on. They clicked and tapped the switches, but nothing. Not even a flicker. Only the glow remained, the faint amber light seeping from the stained glass windows high above, bathing the vast interior in hues of crimson, blue, and gold. The space was wrong. They had seen a small country chapel from the outside, barely big enough for 100 people. But inside, it stretched on like a cathedral. The ceiling rose into darkness, beams vanishing in shadow. The pews stretched row after row, too many to count, all facing a pulpit so far away it was a smear of gold at the end of the aisle. The air smelled heavy, wax, dust, and something acrid beneath it. And always, that sound. The choir. At first, it was a whisper. Then it grew clearer, rising and falling, voices in harmony, but without words. No lyrics, no language. Just tones woven together like strands of silk, vibrating in their bones. Derek tried to laugh but his voice cracked. Okay, someone explain to me how a building this size fits inside that shack we saw outside. Lila's voice shook. It doesn't. It never did. Ethan swallowed hard, forcing his grin. Optical illusion. Like one of those, funhouse things. Funhouse? Kayla's voice was sharp, incredulous. Does this look like a carnival ride to you? Ethan ignored her, stepping into the aisle. The wooden boards creaked under his sneakers, and the sound seemed far too loud in the cavernous space. Look, he said. We came here to see the church. Well, here it is. We'll check it out, take it all in, and then leave. Simple. As if in response, the choir swelled louder. Kayla's skin prickled. She grabbed his sleeve. Don't you get it? It doesn't want us to leave. They walked down the aisle together, every footstep echoing in unnatural ways, sometimes too loud, sometimes muffled, sometimes as if dozens of feet were walking alongside them. Halfway down the aisle, Lila stopped suddenly. Her wide eyes locked on the pews. "Do you see that?" she whispered. At first, the others didn't. Then the light shifted, and they saw shapes sitting in the pews. Rows of figures, silhouettes bathed in stained glass glow. Dozens of them, hunched and still, as if bowing their heads in prayer. Kayla's stomach dropped. "Oh my God." Derek's voice was a growl. "Must be statues. Just decoration." But then one of the shapes moved. Its head rose slowly, jerkily, like it hadn't moved in years. The neck craned toward them. The face came into view in the amber glow. It had no features. No eyes, no mouth, no nose. Just smooth flesh stretched too tightly, a blank mask tilted in their direction. Lila gasped, clutching the small cross at her neck. "Dios mío." The others followed her gaze, realizing in horror that every pew was full of them. Dozens, no, hundreds, of faceless congregants. All shifting now, raising their heads, turning toward the teenagers in slow, unnatural unison. And the choir? It was coming from them. The humming rose, vibrating the air, pressing against their eardrums until their teeth hurt. The faceless figures leaned forward as if inhaling the scent of prey. "Run," Kayla whispered. "Run!" Ethan shouted. They bolted down the aisle, sneakers slapping the boards. The figures didn't follow, but their heads turned, tracking them as they fled. The song grew thunderous, pounding, until it felt like their skulls would split. At last, they reached the pulpit. The gold they'd seen from afar wasn't just decoration, it was an altar, gleaming as if polished daily. A massive, blackened Bible lay open on it, the pages blank, except for deep scratches gouged into the paper. Symbols none of them recognized. Behind the altar rose a door. Not wood. Not glass. Something darker. It rippled faintly, like liquid, though its frame was solid stone. Kayla doubled over, clutching her stomach. We can't stay here. We need to get out." Ethan turned, eyes wild, trying to spot the doors they'd come through. But the aisle stretched impossibly long now, the faceless congregation lining it, their humming rattling the walls. The entrance was gone. "There's no way back," Lila whispered. Her eyes were locked on the black door. Derek pounded his fist against the altar. "This is bull, there's gotta be a way out. Hidden door, window, something." But then the Bible slammed shut. No one had touched it. The crack of it echoed like thunder. The choir stopped instantly. The silence was worse than the sound, it pressed against them, suffocating, waiting. And then, the door behind the altar began to open. The surface rippled outward like tar parting, stretching, forming an archway. Beyond it, only darkness. A wind breathed out, icy cold, smelling of rot and wet stone. Something moved inside. Slow. Dragging. Coming closer. Kayla grabbed Ethan's arm with white-knuckled fingers. Please, don't let it out." The faceless congregation stood now, rising as one, bodies creaking like old wood. The choir began again. Louder. Hungrier. The thing behind the door scraped closer. Ethan's bravado cracked. His voice trembled. We gotta move. Pick one. Either through that door, or back through the pews." "No way in hell am I walking into that," Kayla snapped. But Derek was already stepping forward, jaw clenched, fists balled. "Screw it. If it's a way out, I'm taking it. You can stay here and sing with them if you want." He put his hand on the edge of the black doorway. The tar-like surface rippled, swallowing his palm, then his arm. "Wait!" Lila shouted. But it was too late. Derek was pulled inside with a single jerk, yanked into the dark with such force it knocked Ethan backward. His scream cut off instantly, muffled as though swallowed by water. The door sealed shut again. The choir stopped. Every faceless head turned toward the three who remained. The silence after Derek was pulled through the black door was worse than the choir's song. Ethan's chest heaved, sweat dripping down his temple despite the icy air. He kept staring at the place where his best friend had been standing seconds ago, as if Derek might step back through, laughing, calling it a prank. But the altar stood silent, the tarry surface of the doorway solid once more. "Derek," Ethan whispered. He's fine. He's gotta be fine." "No," Lila said. Her voice was flat, hollow. "He's gone." Kayla rounded on Ethan, her eyes blazing, her whole body trembling. "This is your fault. You dragged us here. You," her voice cracked, cutting off in a choked sob. "You killed him." "Shut up," Ethan snapped, though his own voice wavered. "We don't even know what happened. Maybe it just..." "Don't," Kayla hissed. "Don't you dare pretend this is normal." The faceless congregation hadn't sat back down. They stood motionless, heads tilted toward the three remaining teens. Their blank, flesh-smooth faces reflected the stained glass glow, and though they had no eyes, Ethan swore he could feel them staring. Then, as one, they sat. The benches creaked under their weight. The choir started again. But this time, the song wasn't wordless. It was their voices. Ethan's voice. Kayla's. Lila's. Each note wove into the next, phrases from conversations they had spoken minutes earlier, stitched together into eerie harmony. "He's fine, gotta be fine. This is your fault. Don't pretend this is normal." Their own words were thrown back at them, distorted, layered, until the whole church vibrated with an endless cycle of their fear. Kayla slapped her hands over her ears. "Make it stop. Make it stop." Ethan dragged her away from the altar, pulling her toward the side of the church, where narrow doors lined the walls. Lila followed, crossing herself as they went. They burst through the nearest one and found themselves in a narrow hallway. The sound of the choir dimmed slightly, muffled by the walls, though the vibrations still hummed underfoot. The hallway stretched into darkness. Wooden doors lined it, some cracked open, others bolted shut. A lantern flickered on the wall, though there was no visible flame inside it, just a glow, pulsing faintly. Kayla's watch beeped faintly. She lifted her wrist. Midnight. Still midnight. Her stomach dropped. "That's not right." "What?" Ethan asked, still gripping her wrist as though letting go would lose her forever. "My watch," she showed him, voice trembling. "It hasn't moved." "It's been midnight for how long?" Ethan pulled out his phone, but the screen glitched, static flashing across it before it went black entirely. "Battery's dead," he muttered. "No," Kayla whispered. "It's not dead. It's just gone." They moved down the hallway. Every door they passed seemed wrong, too tall, too narrow, frames bending at unnatural angles. From some came whispers, faint and childlike. From others, scraping sounds, like nails on stone. Lila stopped at one with a narrow crack of light beneath it. She pressed her ear to the wood. "Don't," Ethan started. But she held up her hand. At first, there was nothing. Then came a sound that made her blood turn cold. Her own voice. "Dios mío. Dios mío." The exact prayer she had whispered when she first saw the faceless congregation. She stumbled back from the door. "It's us," she whispered. "This place, it's repeating us." Kayla shook her head, trembling harder now. "No. No, this can't be real. This can't." She pushed past them, yanking another door open. "Kayla, wait!" Ethan shouted. The door swung wide. Inside was a small room, lit by dozens of candles. At its center stood a wooden pew, and sitting on it, Derek. His head bowed. His shoulders slumped. Kayla gasped. "Oh my God, Derek!" She ran forward before the others could stop her, dropping to her knees beside him. She grabbed his arm. "Derek, it's me, it's us, we thought." She froze. His skin was cold. Too cold. His body stiff, unyielding. "Kayla," Ethan whispered from the doorway. She looked up. Derek's face lifted slowly. It was blank. Smooth. Just like the congregation. The mouth open anyway, stretching across where no mouth should have been. And Derek's voice, his real voice, came out, warped and wrong. "What's the worst that could happen?" Kayla screamed. Ethan yanked her back as the faceless Derek lurched to its feet. The candles guttered, and the room darkened as it stumbled forward. The door slammed shut between them with a force that rattled the walls. Kayla collapsed against Ethan, shaking uncontrollably. "That wasn't him," she whispered. "That wasn't him, it can't be him." Lila's eyes were wide, dark, hollow. "It's feeding," she said softly. Ethan blinked at her. "What?" "This place. It's feeding on us. On what we say. What we fear. It copies us. Plays us back until," she swallowed hard. "Until we can't tell what's real anymore." Kayla clutched her head, sobbing. "I just want to go home." The lantern flickered. The hallway shifted. The doors on either side warped, stretching taller, their handles melting into the wood. The floor tilted beneath them, slanting as though the whole church leaned. Ethan grabbed the wall, his knuckles white. "We can't stay here. We gotta keep moving." But when they turned back, the hallway behind them was gone, replaced by a solid wall of stone. There was only forward. They stumbled on, deeper into the twisting corridor. Every step stretched longer, the lantern light dimmer, the air heavier. Then, faintly, ahead. A sound. Footsteps. Not theirs. Ethan froze, throwing his arm out to block the others. The footsteps echoed closer, slow, deliberate, each one dragging slightly, like someone pulling their feet through water. Kayla's breath hitched. The shadows shifted at the end of the hall. A figure emerged. At first, it looked human. A man in tattered clothes, skin pale as bone. His head was bowed, hair hanging over his face. He stumbled toward them, muttering softly under his breath. Ethan squinted, his voice low. "Who the hell?" Then the muttering grew louder, clearer. It was Ethan's voice. "Come on. What's the worst that could happen?" The figure's head snapped up. Its face was Ethan's. But twisted, skin stretched too tight, eyes too wide, mouth split in a grin that dripped black liquid down its chin. The double took another dragging step forward. And the lantern went out. The lantern died, and the hallway collapsed into pitch black. Kayla's scream tore from her throat, raw and panicked. Ethan grabbed her wrist, yanking her backward, fumbling blindly in the dark. Lila clung to his other arm, her nails digging into his skin. The sound of footsteps dragged closer. Slow. Steady. Wrong. Then Ethan's own voice cut through the black. "What's the worst that could happen?" The words echoed unnaturally, bouncing off the walls in a dozen directions. Ethan clenched his jaw, heart hammering. "That thing isn't me," he muttered, more to himself than the others. "It's just a trick. Just ignore it." But it was hard to ignore when the voice was his own, spoken with a hunger he had never known he could have. A faint glow flickered ahead. Not white, not golden, red. Light, Lila whispered. Go. They ran, shoes slapping the warped wooden floor. The air grew hotter with every step, the glow stronger, until they burst into a small chamber. A single candle burned on a stand in the center. Its flame was crimson, casting sickly shadows across the walls. And the walls? They weren't stone. They were mirrors. Dozens of tall mirrors, stretching from floor to ceiling, reflecting the three teens in fractured shards. But the reflections weren't right. Kayla stumbled back as she saw herself in the nearest pane. Not standing where she stood, but kneeling. Crying. Blood smeared on her hands. Her reflection lifted its head and whispered, "It's your fault Derek's dead." Kayla screamed, slamming her fist against the glass. The image rippled, but did not break. Ethan turned to another mirror. His reflection was there, too, but not smiling, not cocky. This Ethan's face was pale, hollow, eyes sunken with dark rings. His lips trembled as he whispered. "You should have stopped him. You should have stopped all of this. But you never stop anything, do you? Just like when your dad left." Ethan froze. His throat tightened. "Shut up." The reflection pressed its palm against the inside of the glass. "You let people go. That's all you do. And now they'll all die because of you." Ethan swung his arm at the glass, but his fist passed through empty air. The reflection grinned. Lila clutched her cross, forcing herself to look at her own mirror. Her reflection was younger, 9 years old, kneeling beside a hospital bed. A woman with tubes in her arms lay motionless, breath rattling in her chest. Her abuela. Tears streaked down the child's face. "I'm sorry," the reflection whispered. "I prayed, but I didn't believe. And when I stopped believing, she died." Lila shook her head violently, whispering rapid prayers in Spanish, tears spilling from her eyes. "No, no, that's not true." But the child version of herself looked up, eyes dark, lips curling into a smile. "That's why the church came for you." The candle flared brighter. The mirrors began to hum, vibrating with low tones that sank into their bones. Each reflection pressed harder against the glass, palms smearing across it, mouths moving faster now, whispering confessions the real teens had never spoken aloud. Kayla fell to her knees, covering her ears. "Make it stop, make it stop." Ethan yanked her back up, gripping her shoulders. "They're lies," he shouted. "They're just trying to screw with us." But the words faltered on his tongue. Because deep down, he wasn't sure. The mirrors began to crack. Thin fractures spread outward like spiderwebs, glowing with the same red as the candle flame. The reflections pounded against the glass from the inside, fists striking in unison. With every strike, the cracks widened. "They're trying to get out," Lila whispered, terror choking her voice. Ethan spun, searching for an exit. But the chamber had only one doorway, the one they'd entered. And now, standing in it, blocking the way out, was the figure with his own face. The twisted Ethan double. Its grin split wider, dripping black sludge down its chin. Its eyes glowed faintly red, catching the candlelight. "Come on," it crooned in Ethan's voice. "You already know this is where you belong." The mirrors shattered. The sound was deafening. Shards rained down like rain, but instead of scattering across the floor, they hovered in the air, dozens of jagged shards, spinning slowly, reflecting fragments of faces. From the broken mirrors, the reflections crawled free. Kayla's double dragged itself out first, blood still dripping from her hands. Ethan's hollow-eyed reflection followed, then Lila's child self, dragging the hospital bed behind her, wheels screeching against the wood. They stepped into the room, circling, whispering accusations, each voice layered over the next until it was an unbearable roar. "Your fault. You let him die. You stopped believing. You never stop anything." Kayla broke, sobbing uncontrollably. She sank to the floor, arms wrapped around her knees, shaking her head. "It's true, it's all true." "No!" Ethan roared. He grabbed her by the shoulders, shaking her. "Don't listen. That's what it wants. It wants us broken." But Kayla wasn't hearing him anymore. Her double reached down, touching her cheek. Kayla went still. Her eyes rolled back. And in the space of a heartbeat, she was gone. Only the faceless version of her remained, standing where she had been, humming the choir's song. Ethan stumbled backward, horror freezing his blood. "No, oh God, no!" Lila's hand closed around his arm, dragging him toward the door. Her face was streaked with tears, but her voice was steel. "We have to go. Now." The doubles were closing in, footsteps pounding, eyes glowing faint red. The twisted Ethan raised its dripping grin. Ethan and Lila bolted for the door. The figures lunged. The candle blew out. And the church swallowed them in darkness once again. The dark was suffocating. Ethan's hand scraped blindly against the wall until his fingers closed around a brass handle. He yanked it down, and a door gave way beneath their weight. He and Lila stumbled inside, slamming it behind them. The air was stale. The sound of the doubles, those twisted versions of themselves, faded as the door sealed shut. Ethan bent over, gasping, his pulse hammering. His arms shook, his shirt clung to his sweat-soaked skin. Lila leaned against the wall, clutching her cross so tightly it cut into her palm. Her whisper was hoarse. "Kayla, she's gone." Ethan's stomach twisted. He wanted to argue, to say they could still save her, but the memory of her blank, faceless replacement silenced him. The church didn't give people back. The new room was different from the others. It was a library, or something pretending to be one. Shelves lined the walls, crammed with leather-bound books. The air was thick with the smell of dust, rot, and candle smoke. A candelabrum on a table flickered faintly, though no one had lit it. They approached cautiously, scanning the titles. Most books had no names at all, just cracked spines. Others bore initials, J.R., A.M., C.H. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Ethan pulled one down at random. The leather was damp, the pages brittle. Scrawled handwriting filled them, jagged, frantic. He read aloud. Day 1. The church took us. Said it was a dare, just a joke. We can't find the way out. The doors change every time we open them. We try to mark the walls, but the marks vanish when we look away. It's alive. It's alive and it's hungry. Ethan's throat went dry. He flipped further. We lost Mark today. The choir sang his name until he followed it. When we found him, he had no face. I can still hear him humming even though he's gone. The last entry stopped mid-sentence, the pen stroke trailing off the page. Ethan dropped the book like it had burned him. Lila had pulled another journal from the shelf. Her voice trembled as she read. It doesn't want prayers. It wants what prayers come from: guilt, regret, sorrow. It makes you relive everything you hide. Every sin you never confessed. That's the offering. She turned the page. We thought we could resist. We thought we could ignore it. But it knows. It knows what you're most afraid to remember. And once you listen, it takes you. Body, soul, everything. And it sings with your voice. Her hand shook so violently the book fell from her grip. Ethan muttered, so it's not just a church. It's some kind of parasite. Lila shook her head. No. Worse. It's a god. A god that feeds on despair. The candelabram's flames flared brighter, and with the light came something else, scratched carvings on the walls, hidden beneath layers of soot. Names. Hundreds of names, etched into the wood in desperate, ragged lines. Some were accompanied by dates. Others just by a single word: forgive, trapped, help. Ethan's stomach lurched. All these people. Lila's eyes welled with tears. They were here before us. The thought was unbearable, generations of victims, swallowed whole by the same nightmare. The church appearing again and again, tricking the desperate, the curious, the reckless. And no one ever escaped. A sound broke the silence. Thump. A single step. Ethan whipped around, heart leaping into his throat. At the far end of the room, between the shelves, a figure stood. For one wild moment, Ethan thought it might be Kayla. Her silhouette was familiar, small, hunched. But as the candelabram's light flickered across it, his hope curdled. The figure's head turned slowly. Its face was carved with words. Dozens of words, scratched deep into the skin, overlapping, bleeding into each other. Forgive. Trapped. Help. Its mouth opened, and the voice that came out was not Kayla's. It was dozens of voices at once, layered, breaking, wailing. We wrote. We prayed. It didn't matter. It always takes. The figure staggered forward. Lila yanked Ethan toward another door. Go! They sprinted across the library, books scattering off the shelves as though thrown by invisible hands. Pages tore free and spiraled through the air like dying birds. The figure behind them screamed, a sound so raw it felt like glass in their ears. Ethan shoved the next door open, and they tumbled through. The door slammed shut. They were in a new chamber, smaller, circular. Stone walls this time, cold and damp. At the center stood another altar. But unlike the golden one they'd seen before, this one was crude, just a slab of rock, stained black. On it lay a journal, open. A fresh one. Ethan approached cautiously. The handwriting was new, the ink wet. His stomach dropped when he read the first line. Ethan Parker. Age 17. He froze. The words glistened, as though written only seconds ago. Lila's breath caught in her throat. It's writing you. He flipped to the next line. Brought his friends to prove he wasn't afraid. Secretly terrified of being forgotten, just like his father forgot him. Ethan's chest constricted. He slammed the book shut, but when he looked down, another journal had appeared beside it. Lila's name on the cover. She snatched it up before he could, opening it with trembling hands. Lila Ramirez. Age 16. Prayed for her grandmother's life, but did not believe. Still wonders if her doubt killed her. Her voice cracked. No, that's not true. But the ink shifted beneath her fingers, letters rearranging themselves into new words. It is true. That is your offering. The altar hummed, vibrating under their hands. The stone grew warm, then hot, until the journals themselves began to smoke. Ethan yanked Lila back. Both books burst into flames, collapsing into ash that scattered into the air. The church was recording them. Writing their sins before they had confessed them. Feeding on them. The walls shook. From somewhere deep within, the bell tolled again. Once. Twice. The sound rattled their bones, pressed tears from their eyes. Lila's voice broke in a whisper. The bell, it means someone's soul just got taken. Ethan shuddered. Then that means Kayla. The bell tolled a third time. And this time, it was lower. Hungrier. As if it was calling their names. The bell's echo lingered long after it stopped ringing, hanging in the air like smoke. Ethan and Lila pressed against the damp stone wall, unable to move, afraid even to breathe. Then came the whisper. Soft at first, like the shuffle of wind through grass. But the sound grew clearer, shaping itself into syllables. Into words. Ethan. Lila. They both froze. The voice was warm, almost kind. Not the jagged shrieks of the faceless figures, not the layered cries of the journal's victims. This was different. It was soothing, like a lullaby sung to a child. And yet, underneath, there was hunger. Ethan shook his head violently. Don't listen. It's just another trick. But Lila's face had gone pale. She wasn't looking at him. She was staring at the shadows ahead. The chamber opened into a long hallway, its walls lined with cracked marble pillars. Above, a balcony stretched into darkness. The whispers swelled, echoing down from the loft high overhead. And then came the sound of singing. It started with one voice. Pure. Sweet. Then another joined. And another. A harmony so beautiful it made Ethan's chest ache. It reminded him of Christmas services when he was a kid, sitting next to his mother before she left. For a split second, he wanted to follow the sound, to lose himself in it. But the lyrics, if they could be called that, were wrong. The words were his name. Ethan. Ethan Parker, come up, come up. He clapped his hands over his ears, but it didn't help. The voices slipped inside anyway, wrapping around his mind like vines. He staggered, gripping the wall. Don't listen to it. But Lila was already moving. Her steps were small at first, hesitant, like sleepwalking. Her cross glinted in the faint light, swaying as she moved forward. Lila. Ethan lunged for her arm, but she jerked away violently. Her eyes were wide, glazed, locked on the choir loft above. They're singing her voice, she whispered. Ethan blinked. What? Whose voice? Abuela's. Lila's lip trembled. That's my grandmother. She's up there. She's calling me. No, Ethan gripped her shoulders, shaking her. It's not her. It's the church. Don't you get it? That's how it feeds, it takes their voices, it becomes them. But Lila was crying now, tears spilling freely down her cheeks. I prayed for her to live. And she died. What if she's trapped here? What if she's been waiting for me all this time? The voices swelled, impossibly sweet, impossibly sad. And underneath them, Ethan heard it, the faintest thread of another sound. A rasp. A tearing of flesh. Like teeth gnashing together. The choir wasn't singing. It was chewing. Ethan tried to pull her back. Lila, you can't. But she shoved him so hard he staggered against the wall. Her strength startled him. She turned and sprinted toward a spiral staircase at the end of the hall, the one that curled up into the shadows of the loft. Lila. Ethan's voice cracked as he ran after her. His shoes pounded the cold stone floor, echoing through the cavernous chamber. She didn't slow. The stairs creaked beneath their weight as they climbed, the choir's voices growing louder, filling every inch of the church. Ethan's heart raced, dread choking him. At the top of the stairs, a narrow landing opened into the choir loft. And what he saw nearly made him vomit. The choir was there, rows of figures standing shoulder to shoulder. They wore rotting choir robes, blackened and torn. Their heads were bowed, their hands clasped as if in prayer. But their mouths, God, their mouths, stretched impossibly wide, splitting their faces from ear to ear. Inside were not tongues, not throats, but black pits. Cavernous holes that howled as the music poured from them. And their eyes. Every single one had Kayla's eyes. Ethan stumbled backward. His stomach lurched, bile rising in his throat. But Lila let out a sob. Abuela. The choir stopped singing as one. The silence was worse than the music. Slowly, in unison, every head lifted. Dozens of mouths curved into grotesque smiles. And in a single, layered voice, they said, Lila Ramirez. Ethan grabbed her wrist, desperation raw in his throat. Don't go closer. That's not her. But Lila was trembling, caught in the pull of their voices. She knows my name. Ethan, she knows my name. The front row of the choir stepped forward. Their robes brushed against the loft's wooden floor, their mouths still stretched in that impossible grin. From the pit of their throats, a familiar voice emerged. Mija, Vanaki. Lila broke. Her legs buckled, and she collapsed to her knees, sobbing. That's her. That's her voice. I can't just leave her. Ethan crouched, grabbing her face in his hands, forcing her to look at him. Lila. Your grandmother is gone. This thing is using her voice, her memory, against you. If you go to them, you'll end up like Kayla. Her eyes searched his, desperate, shattered. But what if you're wrong? What if she's really there? Behind them, the choir took another synchronized step forward. The floor groaned under their weight. Ethan pulled her up, heart hammering. We're leaving. Now. But the church wasn't going to let them. The door to the stairwell slammed shut with a deafening crack. The sound of wood splintering echoed behind them. The choir was opening their mouths wider, impossibly wider, until the air shook with the force of it. And then they began to move. Not walking, not stepping. They glided. Their feet didn't touch the ground, but still the wood groaned beneath their weight as if something massive pressed down on it. Ethan yanked Lila toward the far end of the loft, searching desperately for another way out. There, a narrow stained glass window. He ran to it, dragging her behind him. The glass depicted a saint holding a chalice, his eyes gouged out. Ethan didn't hesitate. He smashed his fist against the glass, pain exploding up his arm as shards rained down. Cold night air rushed in, damp and heavy. Come on, he shouted, shoving Lila toward it. But she stopped, frozen. The choir had begun singing again. And this time, they weren't calling Ethan's name. They were singing hers. Over and over, in perfect harmony. Lila. 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 Her knees gave way again. Her eyes glazed over. Ethan screamed, grabbing her arms, shaking her. Don't listen. Don't. The choir's voices swelled, filling every corner of the church, shaking the very walls. And then, one of them lunged. Its gaping mouth opened wide enough to swallow a head hole. And it went straight for Lila. The thing lunged so fast Ethan barely had time to react. Its jaw stretched downward, tearing skin, splitting muscle until its face hung in two grotesque halves. The black pit inside howled, a vacuum that pulled the air toward it. And it was aimed for Lila. Ethan didn't think. He shoved her sideways with all his strength. She hit the floor hard, sliding against the broken shards of glass. The creature's mouth snapped shut inches from her head, onto Ethan's arm instead. The pain was instant. Searing. He screamed as his entire forearm vanished inside that abyss. His flesh burned like acid was eating through it, like his very soul was being pulled out through the bone. The choir shrieked in unison, a sound so high-pitched it rattled the stained glass windows. Ethan yanked, kicked, thrashed. Nothing worked. The thing's grip was iron. His vision blurred, stars exploding across his eyes. Lila scrambled to her knees, sobbing, reaching for him. Ethan! Oh God, your arm! He couldn't even speak. His throat was raw from screaming. But his mind was clear enough to know one thing: if he didn't act now, he was dead. His eyes darted to the shattered window beside them. The glass shards. With his free hand, he grabbed the largest piece, its edges glittering with moonlight. He didn't think. He just slashed downward. The shard drove into the creature's stretched cheek. A spray of black ichor hissed across Ethan's chest, burning holes into his shirt. The choir wailed in one horrible voice. The thing staggered back, releasing him. Ethan collapsed against the wall, clutching his arm. His skin was blistered, veins blackened as if poisoned. His hand barely responded to his brain's commands. But he was alive. Lila was on him instantly, trying to drag him upright. We have to go now. The choir wasn't stopping. The other figures moved forward in perfect unison, their mouths opening wider, their robes dragging like wet seaweed across the wood. The air grew heavy, suffocating, as if oxygen itself was being sucked into their mouths. Ethan's ears popped. His vision dimmed. They were draining the very life from the room. Ethan staggered to his feet, dizzy, nearly collapsing again. His arm throbbed like it was full of fire and ice all at once. Lila shoved him toward the window. Go! Climb through. He looked down. The window opened to a sheer drop, 20 feet to the forest floor. Broken glass jutted from the sill. But behind them, the choir was closing in. They had no choice. Lila swung her legs over first, balancing on the edge of the broken sill. Come on, she urged. Ethan hesitated. His arm was useless, hanging limp at his side. If he tried to climb, he might fall. The choir moved closer. Their voices grew deafening now, vibrating through his skull. His nose started bleeding. Go! Lila screamed, her hand outstretched. Ethan grabbed it with his good hand and shoved himself through the window. His body scraped against the jagged glass, tearing his shirt, slicing his ribs. He landed hard on the damp grass below, air exploding from his lungs. Lila dropped beside him a second later. Above them, the choir's faces pressed against the window. Their black maws open wide, but no sound came out now, only silence, like the pause before a storm. And then, in one voice, they whispered, "We will finish the hymn." The two of them scrambled to their feet, half running, half stumbling into the trees. The forest seemed thicker now, the shadows deeper. The air smelled like sulfur and rot. The church behind them pulsed faintly, its walls glowing like embers, alive with a heartbeat that didn't belong to stone. Ethan's arm felt heavier with every step, as though something was crawling beneath his skin. He couldn't stop shaking. Finally, Lila pulled him behind a fallen log. They collapsed together, both gasping for breath. For a long moment, the only sound was the pounding of their hearts. Then Ethan peeled back his sleeve. Lila choked on a sob. Black veins spiderwebbed out from the wound, creeping up toward his elbow. The flesh was hot to the touch, and tiny cracks in his skin leaked black fluid that smoked as it hit the ground. Jesus Christ, Ethan muttered, his voice shaking. It's in me. Lila grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. No. Don't you say that. Don't you dare give up. We're getting you out of this. But Ethan saw the truth in her eyes. She didn't believe it herself. From deep in the forest, the bell rang again. Once. Twice. The sound carried on the wind, low and mournful. Ethan's chest went cold. It's calling us back. Lila shook her head violently. No. We're not going back. We just have to make it to the road. If we can get out of the woods. But she didn't finish. Because through the trees, in the faint moonlight, Ethan saw it. A figure. Kayla. She stood just beyond the treeline, her white hoodie glowing faintly, her eyes fixed on them. Her lips moved soundlessly, shaping words Ethan couldn't hear. Then, without warning, she lifted a trembling hand and pointed back toward the church. Lila grabbed Ethan's wrist. Don't look at her. Don't listen. But Ethan couldn't look away. His chest tightened. His vision blurred. For a moment, Kayla didn't look dead. She looked alive, scared, lost, begging him to help her. Ethan, her voice whispered inside his head. He staggered, clutching his temples. She's telling me to come back. No. Lila snapped, shaking him. That's not Kayla. That's the church. It's using her like it used your mom, like it used my abuela, don't fall for it. But Ethan's poison arm pulsed with pain, throbbing harder with each beat of the bell. His blood felt heavier, darker. And the voice inside his head grew louder. Come back, finish the hymn. He looked up. Kayla was gone. But in the space she'd been, the faint glow of the church was already bleeding through the trees, closer than before. As if it had moved. As if it was following them. Lila's breath hitched. It wasn't that close before. The church loomed through the trees, its spire cutting into the night sky, the stained glass windows glowing faint red. Ethan's knees buckled. He dropped to the ground, clutching his arm. His veins were almost fully black now. Ethan! Lila tried to lift him, but he was too heavy, too weak. His head lolled toward the glow. His lips parted. I think it wants me. The bell rang again, 3 times this time, each toll deeper than the last. And in the silence that followed, the forest itself seemed to whisper with the voices of the choir. Bring him back. Or we'll take her instead. The forest was alive with whispers. They weren't coming from the church this time, they were coming from the trees. Every branch creaked, every leaf rustled in perfect rhythm, as if the woods themselves were chanting. And all of it was aimed at Ethan. His head drooped forward, his poisoned arm twitching violently. The black veins had reached his shoulder now, crawling across his collarbone like cracks in glass. Lila knelt beside him, panic tightening her chest. Stay with me, Ethan. Just look at me. Not at the church. Not at them. Just me. But Ethan's eyes were rolling back, glassy, unfocused. He muttered through clenched teeth, his lips trembling. They're calling me. I can hear the hymn. I know the words. The bell tolled again. This time, closer, so close it rattled Lila's bones. She turned and froze. The church was there. It had moved again. No longer tucked deeper in the forest, it stood just beyond the clearing, impossibly close. Its stained glass windows flickered with faint light, and the front doors yawned open, exhaling a cold, damp breath that smelled like rotting earth. Her throat closed. It's hunting us. It's moving closer every time the bell rings. And now, it had them cornered. Ethan groaned, clutching his chest. His shirt dampened as more black fluid seeped from his pores, hissing against the grass. Lila's hands shook. She didn't know what to do. He wasn't just poisoned, he was changing. Help me, he croaked, his voice breaking. I can't hold it back. Lila grabbed his face, forcing his gaze to hers. You're stronger than it. You're Ethan. You're not theirs. But in his eyes, she already saw shadows moving, shapes that weren't his. His lips curled into a smile that wasn't his, either. You could let me go, he whispered, his voice layered with something else. The church only needs one. Lila's blood went cold. It was speaking through him. No, her voice shook, but she forced it steady. I don't leave people behind. I don't care what you are, Ethan, you're not dying here. The voice in him chuckled. His body convulsed, his poisoned arm spasming violently, slamming into the dirt like it was trying to burrow. And then, for just a moment, his real voice broke through. Lila, run. Please. I don't want it to use me to hurt you. Her throat burned. She couldn't answer. She couldn't even breathe. Because she knew he meant it. And worse, he might be right. The bell tolled again. This time, the doors of the church shuddered open wider, and a faint red light spilled out across the clearing, washing over Ethan like a spotlight. His body arched. His mouth opened wide. A ragged scream tore from his throat. And his voice, his true voice, vanished. What came out instead was a chorus. The choir. It roared from his chest, hundreds of voices spilling out at once, shaking the ground beneath them. Lila fell back, clapping her hands over her ears, but it didn't help. The sound wasn't outside, it was inside her skull, vibrating through her bones. When she looked up, Ethan was rising to his feet, but not by his own power. His limbs jerked, marionette-like, pulled by strings only the church could see. His eyes glowed faint red, reflecting the light from the church. And then he spoke in a dozen voices at once. "He is ours. But you can still save yourself. Come with us. Finish the hymn." Lila's stomach churned. Her body screamed at her to run. To leave him and get as far from this cursed place as possible. But she couldn't. Not him. Not Ethan. She shook her head, defiance burning in her chest. "No. I'm not singing your damn song. And I'm not leaving him behind." The voices laughed through Ethan, hollow and mocking. His mouth twisted into a wide, unnatural grin. "Then you will join him." And with that, Ethan's body lunged. He moved faster than he ever had in life. His poisoned arm whipped through the air, nearly striking her head. She ducked, rolling across the dirt, grabbing for the broken shard of glass she'd carried from the window. "Ethan, fight it," she screamed, dodging again. "Don't let them use you like this." But his glowing eyes only narrowed, focused on her like prey. The choir sang louder through him, every movement guided by the rhythm of the hymn. His arm lashed again, this time slamming into a tree, splintering the bark. Lila scrambled back, the glass shard trembling in her hand. Tears blurred her vision. If she stabbed him, if she cut him deep enough, would it kill him, or just kill what was left of him? Her chest heaved. She couldn't do it. Not yet. Not unless she was sure. But Ethan wasn't giving her a choice. He lunged again, faster, his poisoned hand clamping around her wrist. The black veins writhed against her skin, burning like fire. She screamed, dropping the glass. Her knees buckled as he dragged her closer, his face inches from hers. His breath was cold, reeking of rot. His glowing eyes stared through her, not at her. And the voices whispered, soft this time, almost soothing. "Sing with him. Join them. We will let you stay together." Lila's vision swam. Her wrist burned. She couldn't breathe. And for a split second, she felt the temptation. To give in. To let it end. To be with him, even if it meant being swallowed by the church. Then she saw something. A flicker. For just an instant, Ethan's real eyes fought their way through the red glow. His lips trembled. His voice, his own voice, pushed through the choir's roar. "Please, kill me." Lila froze. Her chest cracked in two. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. But in her gut, she knew this was the only chance. If she didn't stop him now, there'd be nothing left of him to save. Her eyes darted to the ground, to the shard of glass glinting faintly in the moonlight. Her trembling hand reached for it. Ethan's grip tightened on her wrist, veins crawling higher, burning into her skin. His eyes flickered between red and human, fighting, struggling, begging. And the choir screamed through him. "Do not resist. He is ours." Lila's hand closed around the shard. She lifted it, her tears falling fast, her body trembling so violently she thought she might break apart before she struck. Ethan's real voice broke through again, weak, desperate, barely more than a whisper. "Do it, before they take me completely." Her hand shook above his chest, the shard poised. Her heart screamed no, but every part of her knew she couldn't hesitate. If she waited, if she faltered, Ethan would be gone forever. Her breath hitched. Her fingers tightened. And with a scream that split the night, she drove the shard down. The shard plunged deep into Ethan's chest. For a heartbeat, everything went silent. The forest stilled, the whispers froze, even the bell seemed to hold its breath. Ethan's glowing red eyes widened, then dimmed. His poisoned arm convulsed, releasing her wrist. Black veins writhed violently across his skin, splitting and hissing like snakes cut open. Lila staggered back, gasping, the shard still in her trembling hands. Ethan dropped to his knees. And for the briefest, agonizing second, his human eyes returned. "Thank you," he whispered, blood staining his lips. Then the scream came. It didn't belong to him. It belonged to the choir. 1,000 voices shrieked from his mouth as his body arched unnaturally, glowing cracks spiderwebbing across his skin. The red light pouring from him was blinding, stabbing through the trees, spilling back toward the church. The ground shook beneath her. The bell tolled again, louder than ever. And the church moved. It loomed forward, tearing through the clearing, roots snapping beneath its foundation like bones. The doors blew wide open, red light flooding outward as if the building itself were gasping for him. Ethan's body was being pulled. "No!" Lila screamed, grabbing his shoulders, fighting to hold him down. His body jerked violently, dragging her across the dirt toward the yawning doors. The choir roared from within him, their words crashing against her skull. "You cannot take him. He is ours. He is ours." Her fingers slipped on his blood. Her nails clawed at his shirt, desperate to anchor him. "Ethan! Stay with me." But his body was no longer his. His legs kicked, his arms thrashed, his chest glowed brighter, cracking open like glass. His scream merged with the choir's, one human voice lost in a hurricane of the damned. And then, he was ripped from her grasp. Ethan's body rose into the air, suspended above the ground like a puppet. His arms flung wide, head tilted back, the light inside him blazing so brightly it burned Lila's eyes. The church groaned. Its stained glass windows rattled violently, and the hymn thundered from within, shaking the entire clearing. The doors gaped wider still, and with a sickening pull, Ethan's body began to drift toward them. Lila scrambled to her feet, sobbing, her hands outstretched. "No! You can't take him. I won't let you." Her scream was swallowed by the hymn. Because in that moment, she understood. Ethan wasn't just being taken. He was being consumed. The cracks across his chest split wide, red light pouring out in molten streams. His skin peeled away in flakes of ash, burning before they touched the ground. The choir's voices swelled in triumph, shaking the sky. "The offering is accepted. The hymn is fed." "No!" Lila shrieked. She threw herself at him, clawing at his arm, trying to pull him back. But the moment her fingers touched him, the light seared her flesh. She screamed, jerking back, her palm blistered instantly. Tears streaked her dirt-stained cheeks as Ethan's eyes flickered one last time. Human. Pleading. And then, gone. His body exploded in a flash of crimson light. Lila was hurled backward, slamming into the dirt, her ears ringing, her chest crushed beneath the force. When she blinked the afterimage from her eyes, Ethan was gone. Completely gone. No body. No ashes. No trace. Only the echo of the hymn, rattling inside her skull. The church pulsed with light, glowing brighter than ever. Its windows flared like a heartbeat, the bell above tolling in rapid, violent bursts. And then, it spoke. Not through Ethan. Not through the trees. Through her. The voice thundered in her chest, rattling her ribs. "The hymn is not finished. The choir is still hungry. One more voice must join." Her stomach dropped. Her throat closed. The choir hadn't been satisfied with Ethan. They wanted her. The bell clanged again, shaking the clearing, shaking her bones. The church loomed closer, impossibly massive now, the ground splitting where its foundation dragged through the forest. Lila scrambled to her feet, staggering back. "No! I'm not yours. You can't have me." Her voice was swallowed instantly by the hymn. The forest bent toward the church. Every tree leaned forward, branches creaking like skeletal arms pointing at her. The earth itself tilted beneath her feet, sliding her toward the open doors. and in the stained glass above the entrance, she saw her own reflection. Her face, pale and wide-eyed, already inside the church. Her chest heaved. She stumbled, fighting against the pull, every instinct in her body screaming to run. But there was nowhere to run. The church filled the entire clearing now, its doors gaping like a throat. She was standing on the edge. And then, she heard it. Ethan's voice. Not the choir's. Not twisted. Not broken. His. Lila. Her head whipped around, tears blurring her vision. His voice came from inside the church, faint, muffled, but him. Help me. Her stomach clenched. Her nails dug into her palms. He was in there. Or what was left of him. And if she turned and ran, she'd never know. The hymn softened. The choir's voices dipped low, almost tender now. Come to him. Come and join him. One step, and you'll be together again. Her legs trembled. She teetered on the edge, staring into the red abyss inside the church. The pull was unbearable. Her grief was unbearable. Her love for Ethan, unbearable. And in that moment, she realized the truth. The church had never been a building. It was a hunger. A trap. A mouth. And she was already standing between its teeth. The bell tolled one final time. Her body lurched forward, 1 foot over the threshold. The red light wrapped around her, pulling her in, promising relief, promising reunion. Her mind screamed to stop. To turn back. To fight. But her heart whispered to step inside. To see him again. Her eyes filled with tears. Her chest caved with pain. And just as she was about to fall completely into the light, something moved in the corner of her vision. In the shadows beside the church. A figure. Watching. Human. Alive. The figure stepped forward, just outside the reach of the red light. Lila froze, her foot still hovering over the threshold, her entire body trembling under the pull of the church. It wasn't Ethan. It wasn't one of the choir. It was a man. Tall. Gray-haired. His clothes were old-fashioned, faded suspenders over a torn shirt, boots cracked with years of wear. His face was pale, but his eyes were piercing, sharp, alive. And they were fixed on her. Don't, he said. His voice was low, gravelly, but steady. If you step inside, you'll never come out. The hymn raged against his words, rising louder, pressing against her skull. Lies. He lies. Come to us. Come to him. Your Ethan is waiting. Her heart pounded. She swayed forward, caught between 2 pulls, one from the church, one from the stranger's eyes. The man raised a hand, urgent. I know what it's telling you. I know you hear him. But it isn't him anymore. Not really. Her throat closed. Her tears spilled freely. No, you don't know that. I heard him. He's in there. The man's face hardened. I heard my wife too. The words cut through the hymn like a blade. Lila blinked at him, stunned. What? He stepped closer, just enough for the crimson glow to paint his weathered features. His eyes glistened. His jaw clenched. I lost her 40 years ago, he said quietly. The same way you just lost him. Her stomach lurched. He pointed to the church, his fingers shaking with fury and grief. That thing, it doesn't give them back. It takes their voices. Their faces. Their memories. And it uses them to pull the next one in. The hymn shrieked, furious, the windows rattling, the bell tolling over and over. But his voice was steady. I almost stepped through those doors once. Almost gave myself to it. But I saw what it does. I saw what it really is. Lila's body trembled. Her mind spun. The him clawed at her skull, screaming Ethan's name, screaming her own. But for the first time, doubt pierced through it. Her lips parted. Then, what is it? The man's eyes shifted toward the gaping doors. He swallowed hard, his voice dropping to a whisper. It's not a church. Her breath caught. It's a tomb. The words sank into her chest like ice. He stepped closer still, urgency radiating from him. Every person it's ever taken, their souls are still in there. That's the choir you hear. That's the hymn. Not prayers. Not songs. He locked eyes with her. It's screaming. Lila's vision swam. The hymn twisted violently in her head, no longer sounding beautiful, just endless voices shrieking, clawing, begging for release. Her knees buckled. She covered her ears, but it didn't stop. The man reached for her hand. If you step inside, you'll join them. Forever. And that voice you think is Ethan? It's just one more note in the scream. No, the hymn thundered. The stained glass cracked. Do not listen. He is a heretic. The ground shook violently, trees toppling around them. The church's foundation groaned, dragging closer, determined to swallow her whole. The man gritted his teeth. It can't stand the truth. That's why it needs you so badly. It's weak when people know what it really is. Lila clutched her head, sobbing. I can't leave him. The man's grip tightened around her hand. Then help him another way. End this. Her eyes widened, locking on his. End it? He nodded sharply. Destroy it. That shard you used, it can still wound it. You cut deep enough, the hymn breaks. Her gaze darted to the crimson shard still clenched in her blistered hand. The church roared. Traitor! Blasphemer! Heretic! She is ours! The man pulled her back from the threshold just as the ground split open, roots twisting upward like skeletal fingers trying to drag her in. She stumbled, but his grip held firm, anchoring her. Listen to me, he barked over the hymn. If you go through those doors, it feeds forever. But if you fight it here, now, you might stop it for good. Lila's breath came in ragged gasps. Her chest heaved. Her tears burned down her cheeks. Her mind screamed to run. Her heart screamed for Ethan. But her hand tightened around the shard. And for the first time, her fear turned to rage. The bell tolled again, cracking down the middle. The stained glass splintered, showering crimson shards into the dirt. The hymn screamed so loud it rattled her bones. And Lila screamed back. You can't have him. She hurled herself forward, the shard raised high. The man shouted behind her, but she didn't stop. The church lunged too, dragging itself down, its doors yawning wide like jaws. Lila plunged the shard deep into the foundation. The earth split with a thunderous crack. The hymn shattered. The voices screamed in unison, not in triumph, not in hunger, in agony. Red light burst from the wound she'd carved, blinding, searing, scorching through the trees. The church convulsed violently, its walls collapsing inward, its bell tower crumbling, its doors slamming shut with a deafening boom. And then, silence. The glow faded. The pole vanished. Lila lay on the ground, gasping, the shard burned to ash in her hand. Her ears rang, her vision blurred, but the forest was still again. The church was gone. Only rubble remained, a mound of cracked stone, blackened wood, and shattered glass sinking into the earth. She pushed herself up on shaking arms, staring at the ruins. And for a moment, she swore she heard it. One last voice. Soft. Familiar. Thank you. Ethan. Her chest broke. She collapsed to her knees, sobbing. The man stood beside her, his eyes shining with grief and relief. You freed him, he said quietly. You freed them all. She lifted her tear-streaked face. Then, it's really over? He stared at the ruins, his jaw tightening. For now. She swallowed hard. For now? He looked at her then, his gaze heavy, burdened. That thing, it doesn't die. It just sleeps. And someday, it'll wake again. In another town. Another midnight. Her heart froze. He stepped closer, resting a hand on her shoulder. When it does, you tell this story. You warn them. Make sure no one else walks through those doors. The wind howled through the trees. The forest was empty. The night was silent. But Lila knew the silence would never last. The church would return. And when it did, someone else would hear the hymn. Someone else would face the choice. Step inside. Or fight the hunger.